What up, Cucks? It's the Hater, and I'm here to talk about Raw for the first time in a long time, motherfucks. Let's see. Raw was pretty shitty, let's be honest, you know what I'm saying? But before we start talking about that, I just want to thank all of you guys, all of my fans, specifically one guy, I won't mention his name because I asked in his video if I could talk about it. He hasn't responded yet. So when he does, I will. But yeah, I thank all you guys for the support that you guys have shown me. You know, I never imagined this would be like, as it would grow as fast as it has. You know, I'm not saying I'm the next PewDiePie or something, motherfucks, but I'm proud of myself and I thank you guys a lot. Now, I watched Raw for the first time in a long time. Typically, I just read about it. You know what I mean? I try to stay on top of the wrestling news by reading it. But this time I had to watch it because I heard Shane McMahon was back, and I heard he had something in store for the WWE Universe. You know, in addition to this, I heard a new faction that was going to be like big players was going to debut. So I figured, all right, let's give it a shot. You know what I'm saying? I like factions. I like debuts. So I started watching it. I'm not even going to bother going over what happened in the show because I barely remember it. Like, I know there was a segment with Kevin Owens and the Riot Squad, like they're friends again, you know what I mean? Like, I'm tired of this shit. First they're friends, then they're not friends, then they're friends again. The best part of this segment was when the Iconics came out and Peyton Royce was like, Liv, you should have just stayed in a bathtub, you know what I'm saying? Which I thought was hilarious because it's true. You know, they aired all those vignettes about Liv Morgan and she's done absolutely nothing her entire career. She's been there for like 4 years. It feels like she debuted last month, you know what I'm saying? Does anyone remember in like 2001, I think it was, when Undertaker, or maybe it was a little 2002, I don't know, who cares, right? When Undertaker came back as the American Badass, that was 2001 or 2000 maybe, and his little tagline was the Decade of Destruction, right? And it was an impressive feat that the Undertaker had been wrestling for 10 years. You know what I mean? Not only that, but he had been wrestling at a high level for 10 years, right? It already made him feel like this super veteran, you know, like in the year 2000, Undertaker was a seasoned veteran, and he had been there for 10 years only, you know what I'm saying? 10 years, he felt the same way he feels now. You know, he felt like The Undertaker. Like, Ruby Riott has been there for 4 or 5 years. She feels like she just debuted last week on Main Event. You know what I'm saying? And that's a problem, right? I understand they're not trying to build any stars, and I understand that Ruby Riott is never meant to be a star, but they can't feel this shitty either. You know what I mean? How can someone feel this shitty? How can someone just keep on appearing on Raw and draw absolutely no interest from me whatsoever? You know what I mean? I don't get it. I know some people like her. One of my friends is like in love with her. She's like, oh, Liv Morgan's the best. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, you know? So Liv and Ruby became friends again. The Iconics buried them completely. They had a match. Liv and Ruby obviously won. You know, they won with like a roll-up. And then what happened? Then we had like a segment between like Sasha and Bayley, who I'm starting to enjoy a little bit. I don't like Sasha or Bayley, but I like the way they're being booked. I am a fan of the women's tag team titles because they are being used properly. By virtue of the fact that there's only one women's tag team titles, they can now go to Monday or Friday, right? They can transfer shows, and each one is champion in one show, so it makes sense, right? Like them going between shows is something that is reasonable. It's like, all right, I get it. I get why, you know, you're allowed to switch shows and other people can't because you have the tag team titles, right? So I kind of enjoyed that. It's just SummerSlam sounds like a bunch of boring ass rematches. You know what I'm saying? Asuka comes out, says she wants a rematch. She says so in like a much improved like English accent and speech. So I like Asuka, you know, insofar as women wrestlers go. That shit went down. Then like Orton, and it was so dumb. Orton came out and he had like a face-to-face, quote unquote, with Drew McIntyre. They were like, one of them was in the like by the entrance area, the other one was in the ring. And Drew McIntyre pretty much says, like, Edge said this, Edge said that. So Orton says, yo, can you think of anything to say, like, yourself? Can you have an original thought, right? And then Drew's like, yeah, I have an original thought. And everything Drew McIntyre said made me sick. You know what I'm saying? This is the kind of shit that I don't want to hear. You know what I'm saying? I get it. You're from Scotland. He's like, I'm from Scotland. We are a nation of 5 million. And I wanted to be the first person from Scotland to come to WWE, right? I'm just like, I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is up with this, like, this kind of like a horseshit, like, you know, pandering to the audience, basically, right? Let me tell you guys something about a little man called Nietzsche. You know what I'm saying? Nietzsche said something, or he said a lot of things, but one of the things that Nietzsche said that he's very, very like famous for is he made a juxtaposition, if you will, between two types of people: those with master morals and those with slave morals, right? According to Nietzsche, the people with the master morals value things like integrity, honor, nobility, standing up for what's right, justice, things of that nature, right? Whereas the people with slave morals, right, which make up the majority of the world, according to Nietzsche, right? These people are people that value things like suffering and having it hard and all this other shit. And Nietzsche pretty much said that, like, these people are like the weak ones, right? Because all they do is talk about, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, motherfuckers, but all they do is talk about how hard they had it, right? And it's like, and when I watch this, I'm like, this is like the epitome of that. Like, Randy Orton also, in this case, is, you know, like an adherent to slave morals, if you will, in the sense that he's the bad guy, so he has to do this like sneaky like type of shit, right? But Drew McIntyre, he started off like the whole promo being like, oh, like you had it easier than me, Randy. Like, enough of that shit. Like, every wrestler that wrestles Randy Orton tells him, you had it easier than me. Yeah, and Randy Orton had it easier than you, but he's also better than you, motherfucker. So you can't really hang your head on that, right? If Ricochet comes out and says Randy Orton had, you know, he had it handed to him on a silver platter, like, you know, like his father was Cowboy Bob Orton, so he was like fast track to being a star. Yes, that's true. However, if Bob Orton had Ricochet as a kid, Ricochet would not become Randy Orton. He would be better than he is now. He'd be like a Cody Rhodes. You know, he'd be like on the Cody Rhodes level. He would never be Randy Orton because other people have had kids. You know what I'm saying? Other people have had kids that are mediocre, right? Like Cody Rhodes, Goldust, kids that are not as good as the father, and they don't become as good as the father. Curtis Axel, Bo Dallas, right? There's so many. Like, the amount of people who are the kids of someone, the Usos, right? And they fall short of their fathers or their families, right? Is substantial. Now, The Rock always talks about, like, The Rock is like a huge adherent of the Nietzsche slave morals, right? Like, he's one of those guys that's like, oh, The Rock only had $20 in his pocket. Then shut the fuck up. You're like the son of a world famous wrestler. You know, you could have $0 in your pocket and you didn't have a hard life. You know what I'm saying? You don't know nothing about hard lives, Rock. You know, so like he's like, I had a hard life and Haku gave me like the wrestling trunks. Okay, good. You know, like, no one's saying you had it as easy as other people. You know, maybe you had it harder than the rest of us, right? But let's not make it seem as if like all that shit happened by yourself, right? But The Rock doesn't say that. The Rock acknowledges that he's there because of the hard work of his father and his grandfather, etc., etc. But the final line is this, motherfuckers. The bottom line, I should say, is this, right? The Rock is The Rock because The Rock is awesome, right? The Rock isn't The Rock because he's whatever the fuck his dad's name is, Rocky Johnson. Like, he's not. He didn't become The Rock because he's Rocky Johnson's kid. He became, like, that's what got the foot in the door. Then he became The Rock because he's awesome, right? Same thing with Randy Orton. So enough of this kind of horseshit like woe is me promos, like Drew McIntyre, woe is me. Randy had it handed to him. Like, shut the fuck up. You're supposed to be like a face champion. You know? You're supposed to be a face. Like, Justin never said that shit. Justin never said, oh, you got it handed to you. As far as I can remember, at least, motherfucks. He just went out there, whooped ass. You know, he's like, I do it for the kids. Chain gang soldier. F you. You know? That's what he did. Drew McIntyre's already bitching and moaning. You know, like, you're fucking champion, dude. What more do you fucking want? You're champion. You know? So, there you go. That happened, right? Then, during the same promo, Drew McIntyre starts talking a bunch of shit, right? About how, like, when things were falling apart for Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton didn't help him. Why the fuck would he help you? You know, isn't that the whole point of the story? He's like a bad guy? Drew's like, oh, you didn't help me. You could have, but you didn't. And now I'm going to beat you up like 20 years later for it. Like, what kind of petty shit is that? Like, that's something only a weakling would say. Like, I highly doubt that the real Drew McIntyre, who I do not believe is an adherent to slave morals. I believe he's a tough, strong guy with drive and hard work, you know? But he's playing this cuck, basically. He's playing like this pussy who's like, Randy Orton, you know, you could have helped me out 10 years ago, but you didn't. And now I hate you. Man, I'm going to write about you in my journal. Shut up. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to hear that bullshit. You know, so that happened. That was like another noteworthy part of the show. That was it for the face-to-face. Ric Flair goes backstage, pretty much tells Kevin Owens, like, dude, like, you're a bitch now. And he's 100% right. You know, Kevin Owens is another one of these flip-floppers, you know? Like, Kevin Owens comes out like 5-6 years ago, and he's like, I'm here to, like, create change for WWE. And all of a sudden now, he's just another face. He's literally just another face. He's like, oh, Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan are friends of mine, so I wanted to help him out. He tells Ric Flair. Basically, like Flair's looking at him like, what the fuck? That's the dumbest shit I've heard in my life. Like, no one gives a fuck about them. And he's like, look, I'm just giving you advice you need to hear, Kevin. Right? And Kevin's like, well, why don't you have Randy Orton meet me in the ring next week? So I hope next week Randy Orton just punts Kevin Owens in the head, and Kevin Owens like leaves for like 8 months and reinvents himself as like a guy who's like permanently retarded after getting kicked in the head or something. I don't know. Like he needs a reinvention. Like this shit's not good. It's not fun. Kevin Owens sucks. He's not good at all. You know, like he's not charismatic. He's not funny. He gets all these accolades placed on him. Oh, what a great promo cutter. What promo did he cut? Liv and Ruby, you should be friends. I've betrayed a lot of my friends, and I regret it. So you two should be friends. Shut the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Like this is just like it's entering levels of like Big Show face and heel turns. You know what I'm saying? Kevin Owens. So that happened, right? Then we're expecting, you know, the announcement of this new faction, right? Throughout the night, there's all these like little technical difficulties, right? Like someone's mic doesn't work, the lights flicker, so I'm like, okay, this is like probably, you know, like leading up to that, like maybe like a Smackdown hacker is now on Raw leading his own group or some shit, right? Some anarchist type shit, like Sanity, except like, you know, well thought out, right? So, but no, that doesn't happen at all. Actually, what happens is we see a bunch of bullshit matches, more Angel Garza and what's his face, Andrade. Like, I heard today Vince was upset that the ratings are falling down. Like, no shit, they're falling down. How can ratings go up when you give me Andrade and Angel Garza and they've done nothing for like 2 years? Nothing, man. Andrade's been like, remember during the WWE draft when Andrade was drafted in the first round with Brock Lesnar? And Zelina's like, guys, Brock Lesnar was drafted in the same round as Andrade, not the other way around. I'm like, oh shit, we're expecting like a pretty decent like Andrade push. But this cocksucker refuses to learn English apparently, right? Because he doesn't speak English. So like he's gonna be limited forever. You know what I'm saying? Like even people like Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio, who I understand were born in America, it's a little different, right? They spoke English and they were charismatic, they were good on the mic. You know? Even Rey Mysterio, who's like not known for that, he's still like he can cut a promo. Rey Mysterio can cut a promo, the fucks. You know, he like whereas Andrade is just an asshole who just stands there. Zelina Vega has been saying the same thing for 3 years, right? Fucking Angel Garza just gives roses to people. Demi from The Bachelor. That's how motherfucks the hater watches The Bachelor up in this bitch. So I recognized that bitch once they told me who she was because I didn't really recognize her. You know what I'm saying? Like she comes out, Garza gives her a rose. No one gives a fuck. They show her like watching backstage, like I'm supposed to give a rat's ass, right? Someone poisoned Montez Ford's lean or whatever drink he has in his cup because I noticed that when he drank it, he made his face like, oh, that's gross, right? And then 2 times in integral moments, he passes out during like Angelo Dawkins' match and during his own match. So they lose both of those, right? Total garbage. Bianca Belair thinks that Zelina poisoned the water. Who gives a fuck? You know? That happened. Then we had another noteworthy moment. I'm not doing this in order, but just what I'm remembering, right? We had Tozawa pins R-Truth, right, in order to win Shelton Benjamin's 24/7 title, right? So long story short, let's leave it as it is. Tozawa beat Shelton Benjamin. I don't give a fuck who he pinned. Shelton Benjamin was defeated in a match by Tozawa. Let's put that on the side for a second. MVP, I thought he was going to win the U.S. title today. It was actually a pretty good match, I'm not going to lie. Apollo Crews hits the Apollo's chariot, right, and pins MVP 1, 2, 3, right? That's the end of that, too. So thus far, Shelton Benjamin has lost, MVP has lost. Around 10 p.m., they show Shane McMahon in this, like, basement-ish place with, like, a ring with no ropes. And just this one guy beating up these other guys in, like, fake, you know, MMA. Later on, they show Eric from the Viking Raiders beating up some guy and Dolph Ziggler beating up some guy. Right? This is called Raw Underground now. So we'll talk about that in a second. But then, at the end of the night, where I'm hoping this new faction will appear, they just show, like, these people in masks throwing a Molotov cocktail at something, like, that is like a generator type shit. I guess WWE owns, right? They caught him on camera. That happened. Seth Rollins comes out, tries to bully Tom Phillips. Samoa Joe stands up to him. It's a complete waste of time. I don't think anybody's interested in seeing Samoa Joe in the ring ever again. I have absolutely no problems if Samoa Joe just fucking completely retires and just becomes an in-ring, like a whatever, sportscaster, whatever the fuck he is. I don't want to see him ever again. He's never entertained me except for his run in TNA, and I don't give a fuck when Samoa Joe comes back. Because sure as shit, when he comes back in about 3 weeks, he'll tear some tendon because he's got a fat ass. He got some fat asses, right? He's gonna tear some ligament and be out for another 9 months. Like, this is paying this guy for no reason. I don't even understand. But he stands up for Tom Phillips. Dominic comes from behind, beats the shit out of Rollins and Murphy with a kendo stick. He is. It's gonna sound weird, but he reminds me a lot of Rey Mysterio, motherfuckers, because he has this like elusiveness to him, right? Like the way that he fought them off was through like elusiveness, like through what I call Tom and Jerry shit, right? So like he ducks and like Murphy tries to hit him with a candlestick. He ducks, and Murphy hits Rollins. Right? This leads to him throwing Murphy out and doing a 619, or throwing Rollins out, doing a 619, and then running away. Right? He just beat him up again. Rollins accepts the match at SummerSlam, which I'm actually looking forward to because I like Dominic. You know what I'm saying? You see where we've gone? We've gotten to the point now where I have to say I like Dominic. You know what I'm saying? So then, backstage, they show the Hurt Business, which is MVP, Shelton, and Bobby. And whenever Charlie Caruso is like interviewing them, she's like, yo, you guys suck. She pretty much just says, she's like, yo, you guys are shit. You know, you've lost everything today. You've been embarrassed like several times today. And then she informs them about like Raw Underground, right? So they go on Raw Underground and they beat the shit out of people. Shane McMahon's like, that's great. You guys are welcome anytime. And the show ends like that. The show ends with like, just think about this for a second. The show ends with Lashley, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin standing dominant, quote unquote, over literal jobbers in a new concept called Raw Underground. These are jobbers that got destroyed by like Eric from the Viking Raiders and Dolph Ziggler. These are nobodies. So there you go. Nothing happened. Nothing good was going on there. Just a bunch of jobbers were beaten up by 3 men, 2 of whom lost matches to Tozawa and Apollo. You understand what I'm saying? The 2 guys that would hang out with Titus O'Neil and would scream, Titus worldwide? Like those 2 guys. Those 2 assholes beat up 2 of the 3 guys in this faction that it's the only debuting faction I saw today. This must be the debuting faction unless it's those assholes who threw the Molotov cocktail, right? This, like, what are they proud of? You lost the Universal, the 24/7 title today. You lost it to Tozawa and the Ninjas. MVP lost his fake US title belt. Apollo Crews took that too. You know what I mean? Oh, but that's okay because MVP beat up some guy who was like 5'3". Wow, how dominant and scary these guys are. Like, imagine now if Brock Lesnar comes back, right? He would just look at them and be like, yo, is this a fucking joke? I should just F5 all of you, you know? And that's how that would go down. So this Raw was one of the worst Raws I've ever seen in my life, motherfucks. I give it a nice 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10. I will say that Raw Underground, if something comes of this, I understand it's their first week, but if something were to come of this, right? If they were to come with an idea where like this, I don't know, somehow is integrated into the story, or like, let's say 2 people have like a huge grudge match, like, we'll settle it on Raw Underground. I don't know, whatever, right? Like, if they implement it somehow, that'd be good. But beyond that, I have no desire to see Raw Underground ever again. They never explained what it was, which is like common in wrestling nowadays, especially WWE, right? They don't explain things anymore. It's just all of a sudden Shane's in a basement with a bunch of jobbers who are doing like a fight club, right? Why? Why are they doing this? Why is Shane allowing this? You know? I thought this was a wrestling company. Why are people fighting like in a kumite? What the hell is this shit, you know? So there you go, motherfucks. That's not to say about that. This show was disappointing, and it further reinforces my theory that WWE has 2, maybe 3 main eventers, and they are Randy Orton, like that are full-time. Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, who's not even there yet, and arguably Seth Rollins. Everyone else is a mid-carder or below. Everyone, all of them. You know, there are people out there that should be main eventers, like Bobby Lashley. Drew McIntyre is the champion, but he doesn't feel like a main eventer to me. You know, him wrestling Dolph Ziggler at the last pay-per-view would be more fitting for the Intercontinental title. You know what I mean? That's an icy title match. As a matter of fact, it's a match we've seen several times on WWE Superstars. You know, you can't just take these 2 guys, do nothing with them forever, right? Have Drew beat Brock Lesnar, and then Drew all of a sudden now is fighting Dolph Ziggler again. Like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? He should be going after, like, I don't know, Braun Strowman. He should be like have him versus Keith Lee at the pay-per-view, and he can beat Keith Lee narrowly. You know what I mean? Like, puts them both over. You know? That's what I want to see. I don't want to see him versus Dolph Ziggler. I mean, him versus Randy Orton is interesting only because Randy Orton is going to win the title 100%. Like, there's no doubt about it, motherfuckers. There's no, like, everybody sees Drew McIntyre and they're like, the ratings are down, right? He's the champion. We need a real champion. We need a champion that feels like a champion. And the only one in the full-time roster is Randy Orton. You can make the argument for Seth Rollins, but at the end of the day, if you look at Seth and you look at Randy Orton, which one's like the more champion-esque guy? Definitely, motherfucks, it's Orton. So there you go. And that's what we're going to do, motherfucks. We're going to make him the champ, and hopefully he punts Drew McIntyre in the head, and takes him out for a couple of months so Drew McIntyre can be repackaged and come back with anger or like be a heel or something, you know? Like something needs to happen, motherfuckers. On the other side of the equation, I didn't watch a SmackDown, but I saw that The Fiend did the mandible claw on Alexa Bliss, and now people are assuming that she's Sister Abigail. I don't know how they connected those dots, if I'm being honest. I don't understand why that makes her Sister Abigail. It seems to me like he just attacked the girl that Braun Strowman likes. That's all that happened. I don't think it's anything to do with Sister Abigail. Right? Sister Abigail is supposed to be like their caretaker. But who the fuck knows, right? Sister Abigail is supposed to be the caretaker, but you could do whatever you want with Sister Abigail because there's been no established Sister Abigail character. So it could easily be Alexa Bliss. It could easily be Ruby Riott. It could easily be Tom Phillips. It could be anybody could be Sister Abigail. So that's what I'm saying, motherfuckers. But that's not interesting to me at all. People are like, wow, what a great way to end Raw. I mean, like a great way to end SmackDown. Bray attacked Braun's partner in the mixed match challenge. Like, who the fuck cares? You know what I'm saying? That's retarded. Like, how many people have attacked R-Truth? Where's Carmella? Why hasn't she saved his ass? Right? What is this like? All of a sudden now we have to have this loyalty to the mixed match challenge like bullshit partners? You know what the fuck? What's Braun gonna do? You hurt Alexa, I'll hurt you. Great, you fucking loser. Great, you boring giant. What a boring fuck Braun Strowman is. I was watching this show on Hulu. It's like these 4 strongmen, right? That they go on like road trips and perform like feats of strength. And I'm like, yo, this is like interesting to me because I like feats of strength. But those guys they're just like 4 strongmen. They had like no personality. They're just like these 4 bumbling, one of them kind of did. But the other 3 are just these bumbling idiots. The guy's like, look how much, that's stereotypical big people, you know? Look how much I eat. Oh, it's hard to get around when you're this big. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, develop personality, man. They're like, if you watch, for example, on Netflix, you have like Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, right? Some of them actually have personalities. You know, I ain't watching that shit that much. And I've seen a little bit of it, and I kind of like it because those people have personalities. You know, it's like, oh, okay, like this guy's gonna say something, and it's something that he's gonna say that it's gonna be entertaining, and only he can say it. Not like these other things. Braun Strowman falls into the former of those 2 categories. Braun Strowman has never done anything interesting in his life. The most interesting thing, like if Braun Strowman, God forbid, he's a human being. God forbid, if he were to die tomorrow, he would be best remembered for his match with Nicholas. That's gonna be what he's remembered for. Nobody's gonna remember him versus Goldberg. Nobody gives a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Why am I coughing so much? Maybe I got that COVID. Knock on wood, motherfuckers. So that's what I gotta say about that, you know? I don't give a shit about Braun Strowman. I don't give a shit about Bray Wyatt. I don't give a shit about Alexa Bliss. I don't give a flying fuck about Raw Underground. The only thing that I kind of liked in WWE was MVP in his return. But they're making that stupid too. He's out there losing to Apollo and he beat up some jobber and I'm supposed to be impressed. Get the fuck out of here, man. Get the fuck out of here. All right, motherfuckers. I'll talk to you later, bitches.